Capacity building for digital forensics is defined as the development of new professionals and better equipped work environments, particularly as the digital forensics industry struggles to keep pace with the way technology and the trace evidence it creates become more ingrained in our lives. With the Forensic Focus podcast to talk about capacity building in India is Santosh Khadsare, a career cyber forensics and security expert for the past 2 decades. During that time, Santosh has worked with Indian government and law enforcement. Our longtime readers might additionally recall our printed interview with him from a little over a year ago. I'm your podcast host, Krista Miller. Welcome, Santosh.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course, it's very much a pleasure to have you. So I'm going to jump into a kind of a big question here. In your interview with us last year, you talked about the need to build capacity, both in terms of personnel and the number of digital forensics labs to reduce backlog, as well the need for enhancement of capabilities around state-of-the-art technology like the Internet of Things, SCADA, blockchain, and others. Could you start telling us, please, what is involved in capacity building on a national scale in such a large and culturally diverse country as India?
Okay, let me start with a bit of an introduction as such, which most of us in this particular niche field are aware of. As all of us know, digital forensics is a very niche and lucrative field for those who actually have the adequate knowledge and experience.
Mhm.
The job demand globally is increasing exponentially and it will increase in the near future. If you see the compound annual growth rate, which has been estimated by most of the agencies, that up to 2028, it is going to be at least 16% annually. And
Wow.
especially in the APAC region, which will lead in this particular niche domain. So why did I say that? Because this actually points towards the capacity building aspects within this particular region
Mhm.
and how the country, especially India, is taking a step forward, a leading step, I'll call it, in actually achieving this particular milestone. Now, coming on to the capacity building at a national level, which is such a large country like India, I would like to inform that it can be actually split into four verticals.
Mm.
For example, first is the academia, where we have the students, we have the professors, the universities, then the law enforcement agencies, which are part of the government. We have numerous law enforcement agencies. Then we also require capacity building in the industry as such. And the last but not the least, the judiciary, or the you
Yeah.
can say the where the actually our case is going to rest or it is going to be decided. So coming on to academia in India, a lot of steps such as have been taken. Like we have actually, you can say, two national universities for digital forensics or forensic science has been nominated. We have the Gujarat Forensic State University, Science University, and the Rashtriya Raksha Shakti University, which have been nominated for carrying out this particular task. This
Mm.
is at the, you can say, at the academia level, and this is by the government. There are many private institutions who are also running numerous courses on this particular niche field, and of late we have, you know, hundreds of students who are passing out with masters in this particular field. Coming on to the law enforcement agencies, capacity building is basically on the job. Means when you're working on the field in the form of, you can say, hands-on trainings which are being conducted, or you can say the certification processes, which are certificates which are being conducted globally or at a national level. So this is how capacity building is going at the law enforcement level. Most basically, as I said, it's on the hands or on the job training as such. Coming on to industry, industry is actually catching up with this particular field. They do have incident response team, and forensics becomes a part of that incident response team. So now you have a within that particular team a very prominent role of a forensic responder, or you can say even an analyst who works in that particular field. So there are also trainings in such as, you can say, on the job trainings, and few certifications for the professionals are helping out. Coming on to judiciary, judiciary is very important because at the end of the day, you have to go to the court and explain to them actually what the case is all about. And judiciary training is also going out, you can say, in a very massive scale. Awareness, you can say, seminars, lectures, training sessions are being carried out. And especially with cases going to the court, experience, you can say, on hands experience is also being gained. So
Mhm.
these are things which are happening in India, and they have increased in the last say 2 to 3 years, and we are actually means it's said by our prime minister said in next 5 years India will be the lead source for providing skilled human resource in all fields. And I also know even in this digital forensics field we'll be the lead provider of human resources in the near future.
Mm. So across those four verticals, what are some examples of challenges that are unique to both the verticals and at the state and local levels?
If you see challenges as such, I'd like to classify them into four types of challenges.
Yeah.
Firstly, they are resource-based challenges where we have human resource challenges, we have tools challenges, we have training where capacity building becomes a part.
Mhm.
So, and the second part of challenge I would like to tell you is it's the laboratory challenges. These are technical challenges which you can call where you have whenever there's a you can say a case going on. It may be, for example, related to damaged devices. It may be related to kind of forensics you're carrying out, whether it's computer forensics, cloud forensics, or any other kind of forensics, whether IoT, SCADA, dark web, deep fakes, which is the latest. You can say field which we are entering into as forensic experts.
Mhm.
So there are a lot of technical challenges also which are there for everyone, especially the law enforcement agencies and the you can say the laboratories or the which are actually carrying out this particular kinds of tasks. Then we also have other kinds of challenges where all of us in the globe at the global level we are actually addressing these challenges when it comes to international cyber laws, the standards basically. We do adhere to few standards which are by NIST or SWEDGE or by
Mhm.
some programs such as computer tool testing program which are being run again by NIST.
Mhm.
The next new challenges which I would like to refer is regarding the GDPR in Europe and US, and when it will come to data privacy law, which will come in India in the near future.
Mhm.
So these are few challenges which are across the spectrum, but mostly I'll say it is going to affect the law enforcement agencies and the judiciary as such,
Mm.
less of the academia and the industry because they are mostly means they will not be in the forefront when it comes to pinpointing the cases, or you can say taking the cases to the end as such.
Right, the burden of proof is less for, I mean, they don't even really have a burden of proof, do they? At least at the academic level.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So how do capacity building efforts adapt for these kinds of challenges?
If you see, capacity building is very important because, as I said, being a niche field and a field which is evolving, it's a very, you can say, a new field within the forensic science as such.
Mhm.
So capacity building actually makes you ready for the, you can say, for any kind of situation. For example, I'll give you, when I speak of academia, if a person is trained on a, you can say, a tool or a framework which is being used by existing law enforcement agency or laboratory, he is a person, once he comes out, he is ready to actually be launched or ready to do the cases immediately. Otherwise, if you're not trained on the, you can say, the in the environment in which actual cases are handled, then it becomes difficult for them to cope up with that particular kind of a scenario.
Mhm.
Similarly, with the law enforcement agencies, everyone, as you know, due to the nature of their task, everyone is not skilled in the particular time. So capacity building here will actually help them to, from the start of that cyber incident where forensics is required, how they can actually gather the evidence in a sound forensic manner, and
Mhm.
so it can stand the legal scrutiny. So here capacity building again matters a lot.
Yeah.
Coming on to the laboratories as such, where the labs where actually the experts or so-called analysts sit and do their task, they also are required because even if you see in a laboratory, there are different job roles which are being performed by
Mhm.
every individual. It's not only one job role. You have the first responder, a person who actually responds when the case comes to a lab. You have a lab assistant, you have a lab analysis, you have a technical manager, and so on and so forth. So there are so many job roles. So unless and until there's no capacity building in that particular field, you'll not get those skilled manpower in a particular job role kind of a scenario, right? And then coming on to industry also, industry is also dealing with cases, maybe in-house cases and such. So that also requires this kind of you can say training or so much. Capacity building is you can say a particular task or a particular you can say requirement for everyone who actually is a part of this of when a cyber incident starts and forensics is carried out till a particular guilty is punished till the end of the case. So even judiciary becomes a part of it, and especially it's the most important part of it because they are the person who should understand what has actually been done, and it becomes the onus of the you can say expert witness or the analyst who has actually done that case to explain to the court in a very simplistic manner how he has gone about that case. So for that also, for understanding those acronyms and you can say very complex words and you can say formulas, of course no one goes into formulas as such. So the judiciary also has to be equally trained in this particular aspects, and they should be aware of the latest kinds of digital crimes happening and latest technology, especially the converging technologies which are coming in due to artificial intelligence or machine learning, and due to the technological changes such as you have crypto forensics coming in because of cryptocurrencies being used widely. Then you have blockchain forensics, and you have automotive forensics because of the changes in the automobile industry. And most important, which I feel is which we'll have to actually address is the IoT, Internet of Things, and industrial Internet of Things, which we are calling Industry 4.0, which is going to be, it is going to be there everywhere across the globe. So that's why everyone has to know everything. Maybe the depth may be less, but the knowledge has to be there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's got to be tough. I think I know that a lot of the technologies that we're talking about and dealing with are very abstract. I feel like the more they advance, the more abstract they become, the more difficult it is for lay people to understand, like judges. Um, so you mentioned in your interview last year an initiative called Digital India, and I wanted to find out more. I feel like that's the backdrop to everything that we've discussed so far. So looking at its website, I see the pillars. I think there's 8 of them around broadband highways, public internet access, information for all, e-governance, and others. What have major milestones been in the past year, and where and how do cyber forensics and security fit into this larger plan?
Because of the proliferation of internet in the remote area, especially in a vast country like us, although it has not reached 100%, it is still a long way to go. But still, due to the proliferation of internet at various public places, whether it's railway stations, airports, or in small cities, or you can say government buildings, so it has gone penetrated a lot, and the cheap technology such as devices coming in and everyone having access to that cheap technology in terms of mobiles or any smart kind of devices, even if you're buying a television or anything which is to be used in the house or in the office. There have been increase in the digital crimes. All of us are aware of this, and there's a multifold increase in the digital crime. So, and every case requires digital forensic, whether it's a small case of a kidnapping or a small case, any case of a pickpocketing also, whether to trace or find out the location of that particular so-called pickpocketer. So every case requires forensics. Now it depends, and because of such thing, there's a huge requirement of you can say forensic services which are required at all levels, especially in the government and the law enforcement to curb this kind of crime. Not only this, there are other initiatives, as you rightly brought out. We in India, especially the government, for the last 5 to 7 years, we have put a lot of, you can say, this tasking on digitization, e-commerce, and other things. Out of the important things also going on for smart cities, like 100 smart cities have been nominated. So that's why I mentioned IoT and IIoT even in the previous answer which I gave you. And digital economy, you'll not believe in the last 5 years, it has had a total turnaround, which everyone going on to e-payments, which is a very unique and very, you can say, it has happened so rapidly that I feel that every one of us here use the digital economy. for actually doing our day-to-day tasks. So forensics plays and will play a very important role, whether it has to be taken in the legal manner or in a non-legal manner in some cases where it comes to industries. And it fits everywhere because wherever there is digital asset, there will be a need for forensics. Even if it's a car accident happening at a, you can say at a crossing, there may be that particular, you can say, the signal has been compromised, and for that forensics is required, where we'll have to go into, PLC kind of forensics and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
So I feel it is everywhere. You have to just now it's a time to actually prioritize whether it has to be done or not done. That will be more important rather than asking whether it fits or not fit, because
Mm.
it has to be in every part of our day-to-day lives.
So I guess where I was going with that question was, what kinds of government initiatives are there related to addressing digital forensics challenges?
Yeah, this is a very good question because first of all, creating an economy is one thing, digital economy, or having, people get access to internet and gadgets. But it's one good part of the Indian government is it's also giving the governance part to address the issues if they arise. To start with, we have the Information Technology Act, maybe which is in placed in 2000, and under that act, I'll just give you an example. We have a section called the 79 Alpha section of that Information Technology Act, which gives the powers to the government to notify anyone, especially the laboratories, as examiner of electronic evidences.
Yes.
So any investigations carried out at that by that particular laboratory, it's actually tenable in the court of law across the country as such. So that initiative is there, and plus there's various schemes by the government which actually notifies this kind under notifies these, you can say, laboratories. As of now, there are few of them. I would, if I'm not wrong, there are 10 of them, but they are very less. In the near future, they will require hundreds of such laboratories to be notified, because the cases, as you say in the start, you mentioned about the pendency. Pendency is global, is around 3 to 6 months. Same is the case in India. It may be more because of the large size population and the geographical, you can say, extent. The pendency is more. But due to, again, giving the governance in the form of the IT Act and means notifying various laboratories, we have headed in that particular direction. Apart from that, government is also addressing by, helping, or government bodies are involved in various indigenous forensic tool testing development programs which are running around, especially by SIDAC, which is one of the globally well-known entity when it comes to IT as such. And plus we have, as I mentioned, we have now two national universities and many more in the private sector also. We also conducted various national international conferences, seminar at the government level. Private level, you do have conferences, but at the government level, like we of late conducted the BRICS digital forensic workshop, which was attended by all BRICS countries, and so on. So there are many initiatives by the government which are actually there to support this particular field of digital forensics, and I'm 100% sure the data protection law, or if it comes in place, then it will also be addressing the forensics issues also in the near future. So there are a lot of things which are being happening at the government level, and of course there's much more to be done. But it's as I said, in the last few years we have gone, we have paced up. Means we have sped up our, you can say, the activities which we are doing in this particular to assist the forensic community as such.
So across the four different verticals you mentioned earlier, what kinds of opportunities do you envision? I mean, it sounds to me, based on what you're describing, that that the opportunities are virtually unlimited for entrance into this career field. But what kinds of opportunities do they have in those four verticals as a result of all of these different initiatives?
Okay, let me start with somewhere, a forensic expert as such. I want to introduce this thing. If you see, the role of a forensic expert or analyst is to carry out forensic analysis of the assets which comes to his laboratory and so that he can produce it and produce a authentic, reliable, and a legally tenable forensic report. So the ultimate goal of anything is the tenability in the court of law. And when you stand in the courtroom, the qualification, the courses validate that you have the requisite skill set to carry out this particular task. And this one important thing is they build the credibility, your credibility as a, you can say, analyst or expert in the courtroom. So that's where I would like to start with what are the opportunities for the, you can say, the new entrants in this particular field. If you see, if you want to get into this field, there are particular skills which are required, and for the new entrants which are very important, whether they are, you can say, communication skills, analytical skills, whether they're technical aptitude which is required for them. And in the start I mentioned about the academia, where where the actually the starting point for any new entrant is there, where they make up their mind to take this as a career option. Let me tell you, I've always been speaking on career options in this particular field. I always say that you don't have to be a MTech or a BTech to enter into this field. Yes, they are very much required. They are very important, but there are many job roles which require less qualified personnel in this particular field. If you're a diploma holder or if you hold some global certification, you can actually do the task of a first responder or a lab assistant, which is also very important aspect. If you are a much qualified technically, if you're a BTech or you can say I've done a master's in this particular field, then of course you can take a higher role, higher you can say roles such as the technical manager or the analyst, and you can move ahead in your particular hierarchy as such. So it all depends on what type of education or what type of qualification you are holding. So for the new entrants, there are a lot of opportunities to come into this field. And I also say that if you want to come into this field, it's not necessary you have to get into the law enforcement. You can do a lot of other things in this particular field, and you can keep your mark. For example, even if you're doing sales for that matter, you're actually doing some business there. If you're even teaching in academia, forensic, because there also you require people to teach others. Yeah, so there also you are contributing by in this particular field by creating you can say you're doing a capacity building there. Then also if you are for example you are investigating officer or you are a lawyer also for that matter, so here there also you're contributing to this particular field of forensics in your own way by being a cyber lawyer as such. So you have a lot of options, and it is not only restricted to, yes, it's a techno-legal field, I call it always, because you require technical expertise and legal knowledge when you are carrying out this task. But there are a lot of opportunities for new entrants, and they should latch on to these opportunities. And you just require proper, you can say, thought process before entering this field. And there means a plethora of opportunities which are there, I feel so.
So what are some ways to explore digital forensics, especially for people that might be coming in laterally from some of these other roles that you're describing, that they might be interested in digital forensics, but they're not quite sure how to make that bridge from what they're currently doing into something digital forensics related. How are you encouraging, or how would you encourage these professionals to get an understanding for digital forensics before they move into the field?
Okay, there are two different aspects to this. When someone wants to do a lateral movement, if he's into the IT, any of the field, or in the cyber fields, whether it is related to audits, risk, compliance, it will become much easier for him to understand this topic. But of course, still he'll require some kind of training in this particular field. Because, let me tell you one thing before I go ahead, that within forensics, there are many sub verticals also. Like computer forensics, you have mobile forensics, you have cloud forensics, you have IoT forensics, and everyone cannot be expert in each and every subfield within the forensic. So if someone is working in cloud industry somewhere and he wants to come into forensics, maybe he may be more suited to carry out cloud forensics and network forensics, and he may do well in that, and he may not have much experience of other kinds of subfields, and so he can select that particular field, get into that field. someone is good in, say, networking, network architecture, and he's been a system administrator, or he's been a part of a SOC or something. He may be good at carrying out, you can say, computer forensics, and when it comes to device forensics, as such, network device forensics, and where you require live forensics, memory dumping, and so on and so forth. So within the forensic domain, you can pick one of the sub verticals and do a lateral movement very easily if you are into some IT field as such. I feel so. And I've seen people coming, and I always tell them to do so.
Mhm.
Now, coming on to how we encourage the professionals and entrants also. Firstly, whether it's a lateral movement or a new budding aspirant in this field, mentorship is very important. So most of the students and even the professionals who are working with 5 to 10 years of service also, they come and ask for mentorship, and which is a very right thing to do, because a mentor will actually tell you what to do, he'll guide you. And second step which is required, I always feel, is the internship before you switch, whether laterally or this, so that you get a hands-on practice on particular tools and procedures, whatever are there within that particular, you can say, whether it's a laboratory or some other kind of establishment. Now, second point how we encourage is sharing knowledge in workshops and conferences, being regular speakers, trying to motivate, create a, if you see few years back, till few years back, say 5 years back, we never had a forensics separate, you can say, sessions in any of the conferences or workshop. Now every conference, they actually encash on this particular kind of field because it's a niche field, and they even market in such a way that they have a forensic, you can say, a particular separate sessions for those training sessions are there. So this is how the changes are taking place. Now we also provide them various platforms to voice their views. For example, their publication nationally, which I am mentoring one of the publication called Digital Forensics publication.
Mhm.
So now, if you see, it started off with the intent, because if someone want to publish it globally, and being from a APAC region, even publishing was not affordable, or even buying that magazine was not affordable. If I wanted to buy a few magazines which were good in UK or US, they were costing me a huge amount.
Mm.
So giving platform for people to read, get the views, and also express their views if they have done some small research, whether whatever extent, maybe they it not maybe up to the global standard, but at least so they can open up to ideas, they can read, right? So giving them voice, what I call, in terms of giving them platforms. Secondly, what most of the people in this field and even the government has started incubating startups in forensics. There are huge programs run, and which are giving cash prizes if
Mm.
someone is doing a good. That is done by the government, by the way,
Mm.
who's doing good, who has new ideas in startups. And last but not the least, most of the academias, nowadays they are running towards the professionals for, if they want to introduce this forensic as a subject, for revising that subject, to make it, to have the state of art laboratories, or have the topics which are the latest. So everyone who is in this field, people like me, are trying to encourage by, in various forms or various ways, as I just mentioned.
So on that note, what one piece of advice do you want to leave with our audience about being both mentors and or interns?
For mentor, let me tell you the relationship with a mentor and an intern, which most of the people, I feel, forget, or forget to realize. A mentor is not a person who makes his intern do what he wants to do,
Yeah.
but he's a person who actually does what his student or intern wants. He is a facilitator.
Mhm.
He is a guiding light. So if someone comes with me the projects to do in IoT or something related to even policy, someone may not be technical sound. So he said, okay, I want to make a cyber forensic framework or digital forensic framework. So it's his wish, it's his,
Yeah.
liking, his passion. So as a mentor, we are supposed to help him out in achieving his goal, not trying to, if I know something is required for the industry or for in the near future, futuristic thing, but his interest is not there, then I should not be pushing him towards that particular thing.
Yeah.
Mentors also, I feel, we as mentors should be helping them in carrying out research, helping them, giving time is very important,
Mhm.
and leading from the front. Everyone is busy. But
Yeah.
if you want this particular, you can say niche field to prosper globally, and especially in India, I know a lot of people who are helping out students by giving them time. Even if you're able to answer their mails or blogs or any kind of communication, it will really help and facilitate them.
Mhm.
Secondly, what I would like to tell all of us people who have been for decade plus or 2 decades, nearing 2 decades, it's payback time. I call it. We have actually enjoyed the technology the most. We have seen and we have learned the most. So it's now we should give back by actually giving it to the society by teaching them and mentoring them. Regarding internships, I would like to tell here one good thing which is happening in India is if it's a private sector or government, wherever possible, internships can be given. People are giving internship. Initially, that was not the case. So now, this field is again a niche field, as I say, and you can't have more interns. Maximum you can have 3 to 5 interns
Mm.
in any kind of a setup because it's a very, you can say, a field, and plus issues of integrity and confidentiality also there when we're handling cases. But internships have started in a big way. The multinationals, the government are giving internships, and as it's required to give opportunities to the upcoming professionals so that you can make their career, and you can say they have to go a step ahead of us who are actually mentoring them.
Mm.
So internship and mentorship, I always call them. These are the pillars which will actually take this niche field forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Santosh, thank you again for joining us on the Forensic Focus podcast.
Thanks a lot for inviting me. It was great speaking to you.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Thanks also to our listeners. You'll be able to find this recording and transcription along with more articles, information, and forums at www.forensicfocus.com. Stay safe and well.